And we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Uh Howdy, TJ.
Hey, I love it. Hey, TJ.
For everyone who's
Marvelous. Hey.
there we go. Lost. I love it. Nice to see you. Yeah, everyone in the chat joining us this morning, this afternoon, this evening. Why don't you tell us where you're joining from? What time is it there for you? For me, it's 8 a.m. I am in the West Coast, Arizona, US. And then my guest, the wonderful, the incredible, the howdy-licious Ashley. Why don't you tell us who you are and then where you're joining from?
I will do. I refute wonderful, but I'll accept how delicious. I'm Ashley. I'm leading the AI initiatives at Laravel. I'm in England, and so it's what, 4 a.m. 4 a.m. No, 4 p.m. Wow.
I'm like, wow,
I'm
okay.
so tired. I don't know whether it's morning or night.
Awesome. Yeah, we're glad to have Ashley here, mostly because Ashley is the creator extraordinaire of Laravel Boost. And yeah, for those joining, if this is your first time at a Laravel office hours, this is actually the first time I've gotten to have a guest for Laravel office hours. So
Oh,
I'm
wow. I
incredibly
feel honored.
gracious.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm excited. Now I don't have to answer all these questions alone. I don't have to be the expert. Now I just get to have you be the expert.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm also not the expert. I think we're all just figuring stuff out at the same time.
Especially when it comes to AI, huh? But yeah,
Yeah.
for those joining office hours, let us know where you're joining from. We're so glad to have you all here. If you're new and this is your first time at office hours, what office hours is kind of just a chance for us, myself and Ashley, to hang out with you, to get to answer your questions, to get to chat with you, but also to maybe just get to share a little bit about backstory of certain things within Laravel. And this is a special one because Ashley knows so much and has been integral in the part of Boost. And so, yeah, I think if you have questions about AI, about Laravel and AI specifically, and then Laravel Boost, and in a minute, we'll probably give it maybe 2 or 3 more minutes before I have Ashley give us maybe a little intro, a little teaser of what Boost is before we jump into any questions. But yeah, let us know if you're here in the chat. So we have TJ joining from Metro Detroit, 11 a.m. there. Well, good morning, TJ. Impulse, Dallas, Texas, 10 a.m. I love it. Octavio joining from Berlin, 5 p.m. here. Perfect. I love it. 8:30 p.m. from India. Well, wonderful evening / night for you, the one. Dan. Good to see you.
Hey,
After all,
Dan. Yeah.
from the sunny UK. Honestly, yes, it is sunny today. There you go.
It's not been that sunny up here, but
Oh no.
I'm up north, and that's a
Okay.
different England, essentially.
Hi, Alex. Good to see you. Where are you joining from? We have someone from Tennessee, I would believe, unless that's a different TN, like a country TN. 8:33 p.m. India. I always forget that there is the half-hour difference. Hello from Zambia, Masundo. Glad to have you here. Emmett, glad to have you here as well. Basically, Canada, New York. You're basically in that region. Good morning, Ramiro from Argentina. Wow, I love it. I love it. So many people awesome here. Vlad, good to see you as well.
Hey,
How are you doing
Vlad.
today? Emil from Norway, glad to have you here. Summer hasn't been much of a great experience in continental Europe either. I'm sorry to hear that, Octavia. Summer is always rough for me in Phoenix, Arizona, because it is the hottest time of the year. It's the reason why most people don't live in Arizona. Then the rest of the year is the reason why most people do live in Arizona. Let's see. Okay,
Hi
we
from
already.
Istanbul. Got lots of cool people. We've just had an amazing summer actually in England, glorious sun. And then I think from Monday, the forecast for the next 2, 3 weeks, just rain every day, just
Oh
constantly.
man,
So, yeah, if you hear pitter pattering, that's
that-
England.
that's that's the England you know and love.
Yeah.
Mark from Philippines, 11:04 p.m. Well, thanks so much for staying up late with us.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. All right, Ashley. Before we already have some questions about AI and chat from the great TJ and Povilas. But before we get into that, as people are still continuing to stroll in, again, thank you all so much for being here. The good thing about today is it's kind of there is no agenda. What the goal is us forget myself and Ashley be able to get the chance to chat with you all, wonderful people from the community, and just get to answer your questions, and not me, mostly Ashley, answer your questions about AI, about Laravel Boost, and or maybe just anything else that's on your mind. But first, Ashley, can you
Yeah.
tell us what is Laravel Boost? If someone has not been able to log on to the internet for the past couple of weeks,
Yeah.
maybe the past month, let's say, um, how would you explain Laravel Boost?
Good question. I've changed my tagline for Boost a few different times, and I don't remember which one I'm up to efficiently explain it. I would say Laravel Boost is a composer package you add to your Laravel projects that makes working with AI agents better and higher quality. That's probably a
Mm,
good summary.
I like that. So it's less about if I'm thinking of it from someone that doesn't know Laravel Boost and doesn't know how AI works with Laravel, it's less about an LLM specific for Laravel and more about guidelines and a framework for your LLMs to use Laravel. Would that be correct?
Yeah, exactly. So Boost comes with various tools that the AI agent can use to help it
Okay.
do different things. It comes with lots of AI guidelines, like rules to nudge the AI to do better in different ways. And then also version specific documentation for much of the
Mm,
Laravel ecosystem. So the AI agent, many LLMs knowledge cutoff, is like 18 months ago, and it doesn't know
okay.
about, PES 3 or PES 4 or, anything really.
Yeah.
So we need to feed it, up to date documentation.
Interesting. Okay. That's awesome. Um, hello, guys from Brazil. Nice to have you here, Cleverson. Kenneth from the United States. Glad to have you here. Uh, Key from Myanmar. I apologize if I say your name correctly, but glad to have you here. Edwin from Peru. Yassine from Turkey. Mohammed from Egypt. I love it. One of my favorite things, actually, about jumping on to office hours or any live stream that we've done is literally the community is everywhere. It's crazy.
I'd love to see this. I've joined office hours before as a viewer, and I've
Yeah.
been involved and I've asked questions and things. But it's so nice to see people from everywhere getting involved. Super cool.
It's fantastic. Vlad asks, is England is the sun in England? Is that a thing?
Sometimes, not as often as we'd like, but yeah, it just comes frequently enough to let us know that it's there and miss it 90% of the year, I would say.
There you go. We'll say hello to a couple more people, and then we have some questions already for you, Ashley. Ashan from Ottawa, glad to have
Perfect.
you here. Janos from Budapest, glad to have you
Nice.
here. Juan from Colombia, but live in Miami. Okay, there you go. I love it. Ashley, so this is a great question. How do you update documentation with Boost? Say PES 4 is there. How did you specifically? I guess this question is more of like, what is your process for what it takes to get new documentation into Boost?
Yeah. So the Boost documentation is hosted separately via an API, and it hosted on Laravel Cloud. And
Okay.
so we have an ingestion pipeline and various ingesters for different documentation. So for Pest, I didn't actually write it. I wrote some others, but Pushpark wrote the Pest ingestion. And so, we have to find out where we can get the docs in a useful format. And then we
Okay.
have to write the ingester. And it goes through the pipeline and the pre-processing and formatting and chunking and vectorizing. And then it just magically becomes available. So we test that locally, and then we just run that in production, ingest pest docs version 3 and 4, and then they're magically available to anybody who has the search docs tool in Boost, which is really cool that we can just always improve the docs and nobody has to update or anything.
That's
You don't
awesome.
have to think about it.
I didn't think about that from the standpoint of, it's less about a one-time download and you're chunking information and keeping it locally. It's more about this is a tool that you are always grabbing consistent, up-to-date doc information.
Yeah, and it runs, on a schedule as well. So if
Oh,
Nuno
nice.
adds a new thing, it automatically gets it, and we don't have to do any extra work, which is handy.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I have a question real quick while I'm pulling up some of these other ones from lovely folks. Again, if you guys have questions about Boost or about Laravel and how AI works, maybe how Boost works under the hood, feel free to chat and let us know. We're glad to interact with you. And I don't have any answers, but Ashley probably does. But Ashley,
You really undersell yourself. Like, I want to hear your question, but you're very good at using AI as well, very knowledgeable. So I want everybody in the chat to know Josh is as knowledgeable as me with AI.
Well,
Don't
thank
let
you.
him fool you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm curious then of kind of like a twofold question of one, how did the piece or how do AIs and LLMs interact? How did you kind of decide here's the things that we need to have in rules versus here's the things that we need to have in tools? That wasn't necessarily meant to rhyme, but in the sense that things like documentation pieces, okay, that's probably best kept in rules, but there's some parts of documentation that probably also have the rules necessary, like guidelines and stuff like that. How did you kind of decide, or maybe what did you learn from LLMs to know what parts become rules versus tools?
That's a good question and a difficult question. I don't know if I have a good answer. I think mostly it's just experimenting with things and what can be nudged via guidelines and what the AI agent isn't capable of without a tool. Or it would be very difficult to just nudge it. So we could nudge. So in an old MCP server that I built, I had a screenshot tool and it would screenshot a URL and then it
Okay.
would return it back. And then the AI agent can use that to determine how to move forward. But and it could do that if you wrote a rule that says, when I want to take a screenshot, make sure this is installed, make sure browser shot is installed, make sure playwright is installed, and then you can run this, 22 lines of PHP, and then you can get the file from this location. And it can do that, but a tool that just handles it for it is much easier. So maybe that's the separation of what is possible and then what is just much easier with a tool.
Okay, that makes sense. Maybe later, if there's not if there's a lull in questions, I doubt there will be, but it'd be interesting to hear. Actually, let's just do it right now. What is the like explain like I'm five version of what an MCP is, and how does your LLMs know to reach for that versus looking in the rules?
Yeah. So MCP just is a document that defines how an AI agent should speak to a server to use its features. So it just says, hey, let's talk in this way. So the AI agent knows to send a message to the server to ask for its list of tools and then to call a particular tool. So that, like, super basic. It's just, we'll talk in this way. We'll send JSON RPC to each other. And so when you configure an MCP server in your AI agent, when your AI agent starts that server or connects to it, it just asks it, hey, what are you capable of? What's your list of tools? And then the LLM, based on what the user is trying to achieve, and based on the list of tools and their descriptions, will decide whether calling a tool will be helpful to achieve the user's goal or not. And that's, for me at least, an interesting thing about tools is the AI agent gets to decide if they're called. The MCP server doesn't get to decide. the user doesn't really get to decide. Just the AI agent decides whether it will be useful or not, and just based on what you say the tool can do and how you describe it. So yeah, I find that super interesting because
Yeah.
yeah, you have to document your tools for the LLM to know whether it's useful or not, which yeah, it is weird.
That is interesting. So you're kind of in some ways you might be at the whim of a LLM if you're like, hey, this tool exists, but it's not calling. I can imagine some maybe frustrating countless nights for you. It's like this
Oh
MCP
yeah.
exists, but I need to figure out how to get the LLM to call it. TJ says, I finally used Boost earlier this week, building out a demo
Hell
WebSocket
yeah.
AI chat with Prism and Laravel Echo.
I saw his demo. I think you did as well, right,
I
Josh?
did.
The WebSocket demo.
I
Very,
did.
very nice. Yeah. Much cleaner code than the version I had in the past. I hope it was useful, TJ. I got to hang out with TJ in Denmark at Laravel Live Denmark. Really, really awesome conference. And it was so nice to just chat about AI and the complexities of things with TJ. Yeah, a
Yeah.
lovely human.
Yeah, for those who don't know, TJ is the creator of Laravel Prism, or Prism AI, Prism PHP, I guess would be the official term. Sorry, TJ.
Yeah.
But that is an easy way to connect to different LLMs, and so I would imagine out of everyone in the community, TJ and Ashley are some of the people who know how the complexities of working with AI very well.
Yeah, TJ's a pro. And Prism is the best way right now to call LLMs. Yeah, it's great.
100%. Povilas says, how are you doing with Boost PR initiatives? Do you have enough time to eat or to at least read them or more focused on improving Boost itself? Do you even sleep? Povilas
Yeah,
worries about you.
I'm glad. I worry about Povilas. He's releasing videos constantly. He works really hard. Um, I'm behind on Boost PRs and issues. And also, candidly, I've never had to manage a successful open source project before, right? Like, I'm
Hmm.
new to this. I don't know what I'm doing.
There's a
And
lot that goes
so,
with it. Yeah.
yeah, it's a full-time job or a part-time job at the very least. And when I went to Denmark, I didn't look at the PRs or issues because I was working on my talk and I was traveling. And so they built up. And then when I got back, 5 days ago, maybe, I started looking at them and replying to them and organizing them. So I'm behind. Um, I have tried to organize and categorize and manage as many as I can. And thankfully, Joe Tannenbaum, the team lead of the open source team, has offered that team's help to help triage them and highlight any that I need to look at. So I'm getting some help to catch up. And then I think I have to do what Taylor does and just set aside, an hour every morning to run through them all. I think
Yeah.
that maybe that's the play. We'll see.
There you go. There's a lot to learn from how Taylor organizes his time specifically to be able to do all those PRs and everything like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, for those who are just joining, so glad that you are here. This is Laravel Office Hours, and we have Ashley Hindle with us, who is the creator of Laravel Boost. And so we're just here to chat with you, but answer any questions that you might have. I can't promise that we'll get to all of them, but we're gonna go down the line as quickly as possible. And then also, yeah, just let us know. I guess first of all, have you worked with Boost? And then if you have, what's been your favorite part about it? We'd love to hear from you all. But we'll go ahead and see some new people. Hi from Istanbul, from the Philippines. Hello from UK, Hadis. Jeremy from Ivory Coast. Glad to have you here. Let's see. Hi from Peru, Irvin. Glad to have you here. Salou from Senegal. Again, I apologize if I'm saying your name incorrectly. Marius from Benin. Glad to have you here. Hello from Barat. Glad to have you here as well. Some Laravel Live Denmark hype from Lance.
100%.
Fantastic. Usama from Pakistan. Glad to have you here. Let's go ahead and see. Here's a great question right here. How does Laravel Boost work with Claude CLI or with Junie AI agent? So I guess a great question along with this is you kind of have the ability within Laravel Boost when you install, you automatically say, hey, here's some rules or some helpers that you can install versus based on the LLM agents that you're using. So how does it know how does that work, I guess?
Yeah, so when you install Boost, let me see if I can share my screen. Will this work?
Yeah, if you
Screen one.
share, I will bring it onto the stage.
Let's have.
Perfect.
Oh, that is some fancy stuff. So when you add Boost and you do Boost install, it asks you what you want to install and it asks you about your code editors. And so Boost will detect your system installed IDEs so that we'll auto detect the IDEs to help with and install the MCP for you. And then we also detect your agents that are system installed and whether you use them in this project, and you can turn them on or off as you like. And these are the ones that are installed out of the box, and we are thinking about more. So when you then complete the installation, it will install all of the guidelines for you into your chosen agents. So you don't have to think about where they go. And it will also install the MCP server automatically for you into your selected IDEs. So you don't have to do anything for them. So for this question in particular, Claude Code is supported out of the box. And then when you run Claude Code, in theory, MCP, Laravel Boost is connected. It just magically works. Junie is the same. We support Junie and it adds it into PHP Storm as well. And then they just know, to make use of the MCP and make use of the guidelines.
That's fantastic. I love it. Yeah. So it gives all those guidelines out of the box so that each individual LLM knows how to use the tools and guidelines and everything that you've provided for Boost.
That's
Fantastic.
something that's super interesting is like Boost comes with guidelines for all different packages like Pest and Pint and Inertia and Livewire and Filament, and they're great. And then we have the tools, but we also have guidelines to nudge the AI to use the tools in an appropriate way. And
Okay.
so I
Yeah.
found if you just leave it to its own devices with the tools and the descriptions, it does all right. But then if you also add on guidelines and say, I would like you to use the tools in these circumstances, it's suddenly, 60% more accurate and more powerful. So that was an interesting unlock that I didn't initially realize, that was only partway through development. But that was really interesting.
That's intriguing to me because it's almost like you want to be over the top of you can never tell it too many times to make sure to try to use these tools almost uh, covering your tracks in a lot of ways.
Yeah, yeah.
Mohammed from on LinkedIn, glad to have you here, and then Christopher, hey, how are we all? I'm doing great. Ashley, how are you doing?
Same. I'm pleased to be here. So I'm feeling really good.
And then Christopher, how are you doing? And everyone out there, how are you doing? Hopefully you're having a great day. Hopefully it's going to be boosted today, or this morning, this evening, wherever you're from. TJ asked an ingestion question. What are you using for the
Yeah.
ingestion pipeline to make the vector doc search work?
Sorry to bore you, but it's super basic, right? We've got artisan commands that extend an abstract artisan command that use HTTP requests to download most of the time markdown files from GitHub's API. Then we use a recursive text splitter to get chunks. And then we actually have two versions of vectors. So we store them in a Postgres and we use Postgres's uh, full text search with, I think we moved to a GIN index for text search. And then we use OpenAI's embedding large model to vectorize them into PG vector. I do have something on the to-do list to just move to something like TypeSense, just because I'm using embeddings, but I'm also using Postgres's full text search because I wanted the benefit of both, basically.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure that embeddings are enough
Mhm.
to return the accurate results for code snippets and things. So I'm using both. And I need to run some tests as to which is best. Should I just use one? Should I use them both? But it's working okay currently.
That is interesting to me because I've used embeddings. Embeddings was the first project that I worked with within AI about
Yeah,
2.5, maybe three, close to 3 years ago now. Very beginnings of AI, and so it was embeddings, and I learned a lot about how they work, how you chunk them, how does that vector search work, and everything within PG Vector. But that I didn't think about how, words are different than if you had a left bracket and then a PHP tag because you use those more frequently. It's not necessarily the connection between those pieces that is, as easy to read for vectors, I would imagine. You almost have to look at it from
yeah,
a what does this code do standpoint.
yeah. It's really, really bizarre, and I don't think we've cracked. Like, we don't have perfect search, but it works really well, and that's an area I want to experiment with more. Like, what is possible, and so hopefully, TypeSense enables that.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. Some more people. Usama, hello from Pakistan. Max, greetings from Germany. And then Ashley's
Nice.
also in the chat, like helping out as well. I love the search
Hey, you
console.
asked if we'd use Boost at our favorite tool.
Yeah, there you go. I love it. Uh, hi from the Netherlands. Varsha from Canada. Chanchal from India. Snave listening in. Great way to finish the day in the office. Well, hopefully you had a great day, Snave, and that this is a fantastic way to boost the evening for you. Um, Let's see. Kristen, greetings from Estonia. Glad to have you here. We'll kind of jump through a little bit more of these questions. But first of all, Ashley, why do you think, because I have worked extensively in different frameworks and different tools and different languages. Um,
Yeah.
why do you think, is there, first of all, is there something like Boost in other frameworks, meta frameworks, languages that you know of? And if not, why not? Like, why does Boost exist? So this is the existential
Yeah,
question.
that is existential. I'm glad you said Boost and not Ashley. This doesn't exist anywhere else. No other framework has done it. I'm not sure that any other framework is as obsessed with developer productivity as Laravel and Taylor are. So I think one of the reasons they don't do it is because they don't see the gap. They don't see
Hmm,
what's possible, like the gap between where we're at and where we could be. I'm
okay.
always looking for that gap of where we are at and what's possible, and then what can we do to close the gap. And it's hard. Like, it's not an easy thing to do, right? Especially when everything is changing constantly and everybody's spread across 20 different IDEs and 20 different models. And yeah, so I think it's difficult. I I would expect to see more of this in future. Different pockets of different ecosystems are experimenting with it. Elixir has a good MCP server that can introspect in your Elixir projects, and I love Elixir and the people that are running that. Rashad CN has an MCP registry to help you with designs, but I don't know if they have guidelines yet or how that works fully. And I think Convex, I'm pretty sure they're really at the front of lots of AI things. So you
Hmm,
can copy their docs as Markdown. I think you can copy some of their documentation pages as prompts to just pass straight into your IDE. They have an MCP, I believe, and tons of guidelines as well for how to use their SDKs. So nobody's done something like Boost that's so fully featured and kind of owned by the framework itself and investing a ton into it. But I'm hoping we see more of it in future. Like, hopefully Boost is good enough or becomes incredible enough that people will, expect it in other frameworks. That would be really cool.
yeah, I would love to see that day as well. You kind of mentioned convex, and it makes me think that the reason why maybe it's not seen as valuable, and maybe uh, you know things like convex are more further along than others, is because Laravel is that all-encompassing thing. Like, it's easier to work with an all-encompassing thing that you own almost every single aspect of the
Yeah.
database layer versus caching layer versus thing. And I think, Convex being more of an all-in-one kind of tool allows, like, hey, if we are auth and database and everything like that, might as well give AI reason to to use each one of those pieces.
Yeah, they've done a really good job of that as well.
Gamira says, I think of the MCP as like hands for an AI. That's
I
interesting.
like
Okay,
that. Yeah.
I like that analogy. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining with us. If you're just jumping in, this is our office hours. We try to have them at least like once a month, and this is the first time we've been able to be joined by this lovely guest, Ashley, who is the creator of and maintainer, along with his team, of Laravel Boost. But yeah, if you have any questions about AI, about Boost, about maybe what Ashley's favorite LLM is, let us know. I'm sure Ashley would love to talk about it. I guess this question comes from I'd like to ask a question about integrating AI agents into Laravel. So maybe less about using it to work. We kind of talked about TJ's Prism before, but what's the best approach for building a scalable Laravel backend that communicate with AI agents in real time? For example, decision making or recommendations. What would your go-to approach
That
be, Ashley?
is a tough one. For building a scalable Laravel backend that can communicate with AI agents in real time for decision making or recommendation. Very interesting. There is I've had to do lots of research for this role, right? And I've spoken to lots of people as part of my AI listening tour. And something that comes up a couple of times is a package called Neuron AI, which helps you build agents in PHP and Laravel, I believe. And there's also something called Lara Agent or Lara Agent. I don't know if there's two A's or not. But I personally would build the agents in PHP, and then the scalableness comes by default. Essentially, you can just then use those packages to call the agents. I would say real time is interesting.
Yeah,
because
tricky.
obviously these things, LLMs are slow, right?
Yeah.
And OpenAI does have a real time product that's just, I think, come out of beta, but it's not awesome because it's real time. They need the time to think. So, yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's tricky with real time, I think, right? Because you're still beholden to the internet connectivity of being able to hit whatever server you're doing, and there's the latency issue there. I guess maybe if you're
Yeah.
using uh, an embedded LLM within a project, it becomes a little bit easier to have real time. But those, at least in my knowledge, have not come to the level that we come to expect from LLMs too. So it's tricky.
Not yet. I think as long as you keep the agents on the same server or within the same VPC, so you don't have the latency between your web app and the agents, at least.
Okay.
So you
Yeah.
simplify that. Then at least you only have the latency of the LLMs. But yeah, I'd be interested when you build this. If you build this, let us know what you learn. Like, I'd love to know.
Yeah. So let us know, Mohammed. Thank you so much for answering the question. But yeah, let us know as you build it. What are the tricky parts about it, and what did
Yeah.
you learn from it? Because I bet Ashley has already talked about a little bit about what he has learned just in the short time of building Boost. But hello from Puerto Rico. Hi, Nelson. Glad to have you. How did you guys manage to pass deterministic parameters to the MCP server, and some parameters pass by the LLM? I assume that the version of the documentation is deterministic, right? So I guess this would fall into the why am I blanking on the name of the package that sees your Laravel package for you?
Oh, roster. Yeah.
Roster. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So does that
Yeah.
kind of coincide with that?
I think so. This is a good question. So actually, let me just share the code. Let's
Yeah.
just look at it.
Let's jump into it.
So Boost has a search docs tool, and the name of it gets turned into kebab case, and we have a detailed description to help the LLM decide when to call this, because often this is the only information it gets to know whether to call it or not. And then every MCP tool comes with an input schema that says we expect this information from the AI agent so we can do what we need to do. And so we ask for an array of strings for the queries. And so that's obviously not deterministic. That's just whatever the LLM comes up with. And often it messes this up. And I've tried to get it to do better, and I've not solved that yet. And then we allow the AI agent to pass a package to filter the documentation on. And we only ask for the package name. So if they know we are working, I know that the documentation I need is for Inertia.js React, then will tell us the package name. And then the API, the Boost API, will only return docs relevant to Inertia.js React. And it can get this wrong as well, but because we have it in the guidelines, it often doesn't, because we've shared these with it ahead of time. There's some other boring stuff, but the interesting part around versions is somewhere in here. Yeah. So a package called roster scans composer.lock and package.lock and bun.lock and yarn.lock to find out the packages in use in this project. And then if the LLM has requested to filter only on a specific package, we only return that found package. And then we just pass an array to the API saying we need docs for these packages and these major versions. And so this comes from your lock file. This comes from composer.lock. And so the LLM and you don't have to care about asking for a particular thing. We'll just send that along with the request, and the LLM doesn't need to know that we're doing that. And then we just get the documentation for that package name and for that exact version. And so we just pass that along to the API, and then it only returns that documentation. So pretty straightforward.
No, I love that. It's crazy how easy it can be, but also how how complex it is at the same time, because you are managing all of these different versions and making sure that it needs to happen and get sent to the LLM in ways that it can read it. But I know firsthand how helpful this is, because for the most part, when I was using AI before Boost, it was very much of I had snippets to make sure that every single after I would do a prompt, I would say have a snippet for use context 7, which is an MCP server to get documentation. Use context 7 to get the up-to-date information about X, Y, or Z. And I would have to put that in every prompt. I had it in my rules as well, but it was one of those things that if I added it in every prompt, I would make sure it got called. But since Boost, I haven't had to do that. So it's crazy how simple things like that can be and how helpful they are when you're like, I have the up-to-date documentation. That's really most of the time what you need.
Yeah, that's what I found. I found Boost to be kind of annoying in that it helps you in every chat, but it's quite invisible. Like, it just improves things and you won't necessarily notice. Like, it's not a big bang. Like when you run pest parallel, you see it runs 10 times faster, right? And that's really cool.
Yeah.
But Boost just improves your overall experience, and it's not like that parallel mode where it's so incredibly obvious. It just improves everything. Everything is just a little higher quality all of the time. And I don't know that it's perceivable enough to everybody that it's working on your behalf on every LLM request. Even if you don't see it or perceive it, it's there. So I feel like we have to add something to the rules that say, if Boost helped, tell the user. Boost really improved the thing, because otherwise it can be really imperceptible until I found when I moved to a project that doesn't have Boost, and then I think the LLMs have become really stupid all of a sudden, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, now that was obvious. But you get used to it pretty quickly, and you're like, yeah.
No, that makes sense. That would be an interesting case to see. Okay, in this one session or one request, it used 4 tools from Laravel Boost or something like that. That would be almost handy as like when you have Claude Code or Junie or something like that, and you're seeing how expensive this is. It would be interesting to see maybe some stats about how much Boost has been called in that instance. Great idea.
I would like that.
Prince John, representing from the Philippines. Glad to have you here. Those of us just joining, where are you joining from? But then have you use Boost? And then if you have any questions, this is Laravel Office Hours with the wonderful Ashley Hindle to my right. I almost said left because I was pointing to my left. But yeah, we're so glad to be able to just chat with you and hang out and also just maybe riff and a little bit on AI and what we like, what we absolutely despise about AI and LLMs. It's a fun time right now. Babak from Iran, Safir, glad to have you here. I guess this is a great question, and I'm going to be jumping around on questions. So if I don't hit your question right away, I'll try to come back to it as well. We have a little bit of time, but if we don't answer your question specifically, feel free to reach out to us on both myself and Ashley on either X or we're both on LinkedIn as well. And we would love to answer your questions too. But Safir says, "How did you guys become so good in AI?" I guess that's a good question for you, Ashley. Are you good? I don't know if I'm good yet, but I've been trying.
No, and I wouldn't say I'm good. How did I get to where I am with AI? Like everything, it's just doing it a lot, isn't it? It's just practice. It's just brand new projects, trying out all the new tools that come out, learning from others. What are other people up to? Why are they doing it this way? Why do they have this weird setup? Does that work for me? Yeah, it's just a ton of trying things out. It's just experimentation, right? What about you? Is that how you got so good? Like actually good at AI?
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel I am very compared to a lot of people, I am pretty new to Laravel in the sense that I started working with Laravel about 3 years ago, so 2021, I guess, or 2021, end of beginning of 2022, somewhere around there. And so it was Laravel 9 or Laravel 10 at the time. I think it was 9. And ChatGPT was just coming out, 2.5 or whatever that was, ChatGPT, the very initial version. And so I feel like if I didn't have ChatGPT, I wouldn't be where I'm at with Laravel right now in a lot of ways because I started learning Laravel within ChatGPT, and there was a lot of, of course, it's not embedded into your editor at the time. That didn't come for another year or two, but I would, if I got stuck, if the copying and pasting from Stack Overflow wasn't enough, or the Laracast forums, or even just the Laravel documentation, I couldn't figure it out. Mostly when I was working with queues and background jobs, I would just paste whole, and at the time, ChatGPT didn't have too much context limits. So it was like maybe just chunks of a particular file. And I quickly learned, I guess, where AI excelled at and where I got the most value from AI. And of course, it's gotten better, so that variation has shifted over time. But I've learned the pieces where, hey, I can use AI because this is not something I'm learning right now, but I know the context. AI doesn't. And so as AI starts to learn more context, I think what I've slowly gotten better at in working with AI is learning, okay, AI knows a little bit more context, especially now with Boost. Now, where do I fit in? And a lot of that is I think, the architecture piece of, okay, how do I tell AI now how to work with things? And so, yeah, it's been an interesting journey for me because I feel like I learned Laravel with ChatGPT kind of walking me through things, and of course, it was out of date, and I had to learn how to paste bits of documentation. And I'm like, how do I make this work with my code and my context? Yeah, I learned a lot from that, specifically about Laravel, but then also just how LLMs worked.
That's really cool. I like that. I don't have as much broad ecosystem knowledge. I've been writing PHP for 20 years. I've
Yeah.
been using Laravel for, I think, 9 or 10 years. So yeah, it's nice that you've come, from other places, other languages, other frameworks, and brought that knowledge with you. Yeah, that's really cool.
And that was helpful for me. Starting my Laravel journey, it was like, okay, if I was doing this in Svelte or Next.js, this is how I would do it. What does this look like
Yeah.
in Laravel? And kind of having that context again helped push me further into knowing where AI is helpful as well.
Yeah.
Jigar, hello from India. Glad to have you here. And then some love for Laravel DX from Snave. Laravel DX,
Nice.
the the okay, or I call that like the yes emoji kind of thing, like
That's one of my most used Slack emojis. I don't know
Oh,
if this
really?
is the YouTube live stream for most used Slack emojis, but that is
We'll go
definitely
for
that
it.
is one of the top three, I would say.
I think one of my top three is the LFG emoji. We have
Yeah,
one in the
yeah,
Laravel Slack that's a pink shaking LFG. It just goes like this, and I don't know. It's very satisfying to me.
it really is. Yeah.
TJ says Boost is absolutely leading the way. Christopher says I've not seen a single competitor that comes even close.
Wow,
I
that's
love it.
cool.
I love it. This is a great question from Dan. And again, sorry if I miss your question or skip over it. I'm going to try to also go back to different questions, but we're so glad you're here and so glad to have you as part of this community, but then also just being able to have Ashley's time given up on his Friday afternoon. And when you could be doing so much where you already are doing a lot.
I'd just be
within Laravel.
fighting with LLMs though, right? Like I'd just be complaining to Claude that it's an idiot. So it's nice. It's nice to hang out with all these cool people.
Dan Johnson, glad to have you here.
Hey.
The one and only Dan. I got to meet Dan at Laravel India, and then I got to see Dan again at Laravel Live UK. But he had a great talk about working with basically like hardware within Laravel. And
Yeah.
it's so intriguing to me that Dan, I've started like building my own like MIDI synth,
That
and I
is
want to use
cool.
Laravel to do it. So who knows?
So you
Where
need to
that
use Pinout. Yeah.
exactly? Who knows
I
where that
spent some
intersection
time.
lies?
Sorry. Yeah. I spent some time with Dan at Laravel Live Denmark again. Laravel Live Denmark hype. It's a very good conference. Yeah, he's awesome. Like I can't do any of that hardware stuff, so it is like magic, right?
Yeah, it really is. Um, what are some tips to encourage devs to embrace AI? We were kind of chatting about this
Hmm.
before we clicked live because we were talking about how do you learn now with AI. So, but for those who are devs who have not yet embraced AI, and surprisingly, I mean, maybe it's not surprising, but there are. I don't even know the stats, but I remember seeing I think it was either a Stack Overflow survey or a state of dev survey or something like that, where it's probably over 70% who are not using AI in
Yeah.
any way, shape, or form. That baffles me in a lot of ways. But what are some tips if you were to talk to one of those 7 out of 10 people?
Yeah. I struggle with this. I've spoken to quite a few people about this because it depends why they haven't embraced AI,
Hmm.
right? Some people have philosophical issues with AI. Some people don't like that it uses so much energy. Some people like the craft of writing code and don't want that to be taken away from them. That that's what they enjoy. So, firstly, and Dan's incredible, so he will already be doing this. But understand, like, why aren't they embracing AI? Like, they have a perfectly valid reason, and so I would start there. Tips for actually encouraging, though, I struggle with because the first thing that comes to mind is actually quite rude and harsh,
Hmm.
but I'll share it anyway. But if you're not using AI to code, you're falling behind the 30% of people that are using AI to code. Like AI is here to stay. It is in our futures. So it's like not embracing pest. It's like not embracing Laravel 12. It's
Yeah.
like not embracing HTTPS because you already have HTTP and you don't want a certificate getting in the way. So I struggle with that value wise myself because it's
Hmm.
quite direct and rude. It's like, if you don't use it, you are falling behind. And that doesn't encourage people that much. That just scares people. So, maybe don't use that, but that is the truth. But yeah, I'm not sure. I think showing benefit from it is probably the best way. So showing what you are capable of now with it, and then helping them start with something quite small that doesn't battle with the reason that they haven't embraced AI first. So if they like writing code, don't show them, hey, AI can replace you writing code. But if they like something else, then you can show AI writing code. But just choose that demo carefully based on why they haven't embraced it, I guess. But I'd love, like, there must be somebody in here who didn't embrace AI and has, or has convinced people to embrace
Yeah.
AI. Like, have people seen things that work? Because I really want to understand this more, because I live in this bubble where I think everybody uses AI and
Yeah.
everybody's on board. And then, like that state of dev survey, I realize that's not true.
Yeah. It is really interesting because especially even, if you think about, I know people who are not developers, who are not even extremely technologically savvy, and some of them are still using AI. And
Mm,
they might have a Chat GPT app on their phone and they're asking that instead of Google, or they have Google Gemini, on their Android, whatever that might be. And so it is interesting to know that, where does that divide fall in the sense of what is the first step? And I think just like you, I think my tip would be similar, where it's first learning what is the pieces that that you don't want to give up. It's almost like becoming a manager in some ways. You know that you don't want to stop doing X, Y, or Z because either you enjoy it, you love it, or you just don't want other people to do it for you. And I would say my first tip would be start using it as a rubber ducky for if you're an experienced dev and you're like, hey, I'm thinking through this even if you don't paste or write a single line of code, and it becomes more of like I'm thinking about using a background server for this, and instead of running it on a scheduler. Like, does that sound like a good idea? And just having that, and maybe you do have, a bunch of coworkers who are phenomenal and have the time to have those conversations with you. But I think that's a great first step, where you're using AI to help you critically think about what you're typing, even if you don't write a single line of code. And even up until Claude Code, I think I was doing more of that than I was using Cursor for about a year. I was doing more of
mm,
um, I would still copy and paste different bits of code, but it was more of like I'm going to write code, and I'm going to chat and get some thoughts, and then I'm going to go back to my code editor. And that divide helped until Claude Code came along, basically.
yeah, I 100% agree with that, by the way. I do that a lot now, even though I've fully embraced AI. I ask Claude Code and Cursor, I'm thinking about this. I know there are 18 different options. Can you just give me a summary of all of the ways we could do this, and which ones are the
Yeah.
best and which ones are the worst? And so I like that approach. It just tell me all of the ways, and then I will decide. Like, I still have ownership. I still get to decide how we do it, but yeah, that rubber duck chat, so helpful.
Oh yeah. And for the most part, like I would be curious then for the people who have not used, and maybe you're in the chat, who have not used AI. Maybe this is a question for you, or just this is my question for anyone who falls into this category: is, are you using AI for other things outside of dev? And maybe like there's a balance that you can then strike of, oh, I use it for, when I'm asking about how to, make a recipe for dinner or something like that. Well, then that same thought process could then be evolved into how you're using it for your job, or just your side projects or something like that. Uh, Nuno, glad to have you here in the chat. Two legends on the screen. Well, you're very kind, Nuno.
Way too kind. Nuno's the real legend. We all know that.
100%. Nuno taught me everything I know.
Same.
Nicola from Italia. Glad to have you here. Malboo from Pakistan. Glad to have you. Another
Nice.
Hassan from Pakistan. Glad to have you here. And then Pushback.
Hey,
Glad to have you here as
pushback.
well. Pushback
Yeah.
works with Ashley and also helps with Laravel Boost.
Yeah, he's done a lot on Boost, like a lot. We just released Nova 4 and Nova 5 docs so that Boost can now get Nova docs. that was all pushback. Like, he did that. We only have that because of him. Yeah,
There
it's
we
cool
go.
to work with
Fantastic.
great people.
Speaking about legends, another legend right there. Fantastic pushback. Diabel, hello from Germany. Glad to have you here.
Howdy.
Vladimir, I am here now. Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you here. And for those others who are just joining, or maybe you've had to leave, no worries. Well, I guess if that is the case, you are not listening to this. But so glad to have everyone here. It's truly been incredible. We'll still be here as long as Ashley is able to be here and being able to chat with everyone. But this is Laravel Office Hours, where we just get to hang out with the community, with you all, and have wonderful folks like Ashley answer questions about Laravel, AI, Boost, MCPs. I'm pretty sure he would love to chat
Anything.
about
Yeah, I'm an open
all of
book.
it. There you go. Let's see. Jeremy from DRC, Musondo. This is interesting. I love it. Well, I'm glad this is interesting.
Phew, I'm glad.
And then John, glad to have you here. Hopefully your vacation is going well. John works on
Hey,
the Laravel
John.
team with us. My two favorite Laravel people live on YouTube. Well, thank you.
Don't share that with the Laravel Slack.
Dan is awesome. There's some more Dan love. I met him in Denmark.
Yeah, Dan is awesome.
And then John, hello from the Philippines. I have a question, guys. I want to make an MCP in Laravel. I just jumped right into it, mostly because he said he was a Hytham says hi from Dubai, and he said this question right after, which I accidentally clicked on. But we'll go into it. What does that process look like? Because you have written a few MCPs in Laravel.
Yeah, I wrote 3 MCP servers, especially for a 30-minute talk at Laravel Live Denmark.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I write way too many MCP servers. This is tricky. Laravel has a package that isn't ready to use, that has a big warning at the top saying, don't use this because we're going to refactor it and change it, and there will be breaking changes. But I think that's the best way to build an MCP server in Laravel. So don't take my advice that is a great package to use for building MCP servers, because it is going to change in the next week or two. It's going to go through some fairly fundamental changes, but that makes it really, really easy. And that's largely thanks, by the way, to a guy called Peter Soom, who works at Tailwind, who helped built the Laravel MCP package. If you use a package like that, and there are a ton of others as well. Like if you search Laravel MCP in GitHub, you'll find at least 5. But the README has all of the instructions you need. It's not that difficult. Like if you follow the README, you'll have an MCP, I'm going to say within 8 minutes. And then within 9 or 10 minutes, you're using it in an IDE or Claude Code. Yeah. So just follow the instructions for the Laravel MCP package, I would say.
Fantastic. Yeah, follow those instructions. Let us know what you build. Hi, Thumb. And then, yeah, just be aware that you might have to change some things.
Yeah.
Or if you want to keep using, I guess like it will still exist and work when it makes updates, but there will be updates. Let's see. Richard says this is kind of going back to our conversation about devs with AI. Says, I know so many devs use AI and are ashamed to admit it in case they look incompetent in a team and have to have something do their job. That is interesting.
That's super interesting.
I have felt that before, where I am like, I know how to do 80%, maybe even sometimes less, of what the AI is doing in this case. It would just take me longer, and I have more things to do. And so sometimes I feel like there's even stuff that I have worked on at Laravel, for example, that I have used AI to help me and assist me with it. And then I think, oh, like, am I a good developer? Almost. It's like that.
Yeah. I'm super interested in this. I wonder how widespread this is. And also, I've spent some time with Richard. He is also awesome and a lovely human being. So I'm glad he's here. Hey, Richard. I think of AI, and AI is just a tool, or it's a pair programmer. So you could cut your grass with scissors. You could cut your lawn with scissors, right? And it would take you 2 days, and you'd have really achy hands and a bad back and bad knees. Or you could use a lawnmower and be done in 25 minutes. And it
Mm,
automatically picks up the chopped grass for you, and your back is fine, and your knees are fine, and your hands are fine. So it's like, why wouldn't you use something that gets you to the same place, but easier and
yeah,
faster? And it's easy to say, right? Harder to do. Um, and it greatly depends on your team. You know, Richard is saying, look incompetent in a team. So if you're in a team where they don't believe in AI and they think AI is for bad developers and vibe coders in the negative sense of the word, then that's extra tricky, right? Then maybe
yeah.
you do kind of have to hide it, and that's a difficult place to be. And then start looking for jobs where people are more forward thinking. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it is tricky because yeah, like you said, there is that aspect of you're just using a tool and it doesn't make you any less competent. But it's the same thing of like you wouldn't in some ways maybe the lawnmower analogy isn't as great here, but like in some ways you wouldn't use a lawnmower if you didn't know how to turn it on and then knowing
Yeah.
what does what does the blades actually do? You wouldn't run a lawnmower and then put your hand underneath it because you're like, hey, what does this thing do? So you do need to know how things work and what your intended result looks like, but you're
Yeah.
just using a tool at the end of the day.
And that's quite interesting as well, because using AI well is its own skill.
Mm,
So you're actually proving that you are more competent because you have this whole other skill that nobody else is practicing and nobody else is experiencing, right? The people who are lambasting AI usage haven't practiced their prompt engineering and talking to AI and getting it to be useful. So actually, by using AI, you are just showing, hey, I'm more competent. I have this skill you don't. So yeah, it's pretty cool in that way.
I love it. You're still showing AI who's boss, who is
Yeah,
the person that actually has AGI, in that sense. Yeah, who doesn't cut their grass with scissors?
not me.
Yeah, the term I agree with this, Richard. The term vibe coder has definitely done
Mm,
damage in this space because there I think there is value to having Claude Code run something and then you go back and you take a look at it. You're like, okay, hi, I know exactly what this happened. This doesn't work. Let's fix it. And now I'm going on with my day doing something else. And most people would say that that's vibe coding, but it just it is not a good term if that makes sense.
yeah, we are using AI assisted development, which is closer to what I
I love
believe
that.
it is. And I personally work with AI more as a pair programmer. So I call it AI pair programming. Just I don't have to bug a human for it. I've got AI who is my pair programmer. And so I'm driving, but they're offering suggestions and different ways of doing things, right?
Fantastic. No, I love that. I love that. AI assisted programming. I love it. Ashley, how much extra time do you have?
I've got time. I'm
Okay,
around.
perfect. For those who are just joining, thank you so much for joining. Hopefully, you are having a fantastic day, morning, night, evening, wherever you are in the world. This is the Laravel Office Hours. I'm joined with Ashley Hindle, who is the creator of Boost, which is a tool to allow your LLM assistants to work with AI within Laravel better using the toolings and guidelines that Boost kind of gives to you out of the box. So I'm jumping back and forth between questions as you type them. So hopefully you stick around to hear your question answered. If I pull up your question and you're not in the chat anymore, well, I'm sure other people are wondering the same thing too. So, because I'm going back a little bit, maybe like a good 15, 20 minutes to questions now. So again, I apologize. But this is a great question. As a percentage, how much does Laravel Boost increase the credits you use on like Juni Copilot or even Claude
Mm.
for those kind of? I know that you have chatted about this in the sense of wanting to optimize this, but it's also necessary too in some ways because for those who don't know, you have the guidelines that are given in the form of I don't know Juni's file. I think it's just .juni. Then you have Claude.md file, for example, with Claude Code, and it's big because there are all these guidelines, especially with all the packages that you need. How one, why is it necessary, and what is your thoughts on like how that changes in the future, and then two, does it increase credit costs, and by how much?
I Yeah, I really like this question. I can't answer it with a percentage showstopper,
Yeah.
so apologies. But so we need the guidelines. They nudge the AI to write higher quality code and make more appropriate choices as they are, working through a task. So very, very useful and necessary. Um, the guidelines that Boost creates are composed based on your packages. So nobody has the same guidelines file from Boost, right? Because if I use Vault and Folio, but you use Inertia with Vue, our guidelines are different because I don't need the guidelines that you have. You don't need the guidelines that I have. So we purposely only include what you need. Because it creates a file that is included in every request of the LLM, it does increase. The important caveat: it does increase the token usage per LLM request.
Okay.
And on average, in my testing for all of I have to test a lot, right, across every different IDE and lots of different technologies, is around about 2,000 tokens.
Okay.
So 1% of the Claude 200,000 token limit, right? The context window limit. So it's not huge, but it can add up over time. And, if it makes 100 LLM requests, that can add up over time. But actually, what I found is because the LLM gets lost less, and because it chooses better actions, you actually end up spending less money and less credits because it just did it right the first time, rather than realizing, oh, that's not quite right, let me go back, or you having to say, that was rubbish, could you redo that?
Yeah.
So actually, in my testing and for a couple of people I know, you spend less because it is faster at getting to where it needs to go. And I also, I don't have any stats for this, but the system prompt can be cached on many LLM providers. And because the Laravel Boost guidelines are the same, between LLM requests, often they are cached, and actually cached tokens used in a system input prompt are often at a 90% discount. So actually, in that regard, it doesn't add that much of a cost either.
Interesting.
So I would say percentage, not that much, possibly less. Well worth it. But we also still want to refine the guidelines and reduce them so it's even better.
Yeah.
Two things, even though I've spoken too much. The context windows are only going to increase in future. So this is becoming less and less of a problem, right? So we need to be mindful to not prematurely optimize the guidelines now when everything will have a 1,000,000 token context window in 6 months. So we need to be mindful of where we're heading with these things as well.
Yeah.
And then the second thing, Showstopper asked a different question at a different time about whether Boost will be an option as part of Laravel New. And so whilst we have you, Showstopper, it is on the roadmap as something I want to do. So hopefully, but I have to get it approved by the people that run Laravel New. But that is my hope.
I love it. Fantastic. Yeah, the thing that's interesting to me then is, are you, in terms of what is your thoughts then on the guidelines versus tooling aspect? Is it I guess by what you mentioned, based off like system prompt, you're probably saving you are saving tokens using it as a guideline versus every single time making sure to call MCPs, get the guidelines maybe as a MCP tooling versus just sitting in your system prompt. Would that be the case?
I think so, yeah. And actually also, if you have, let's say you have 100 MCP tools, that gets sent in the system prompt as well. So the LLM knows which tools it has available to it, and that increases the context usage as well. And the linear MCP server is really good, but it comes with something like 37 tools or 43. Like, it's way too many tools. And so whenever I use linear, I notice my context usage going up pretty quick because it has to send all of those tools, all of the names, all of the descriptions, all of the input schemas every time it makes a
Okay.
request. And so, yeah, you have to disable certain tools if you're going to do things like that.
That makes sense. Based off, since we're still on like guidelines, this is an older
Yeah.
question. Again, I apologize for those who are asking newer questions. I'm kind of jumping around as much as possible. But Christopher asked if we've got some customized usage of Laravel going on with Boost. So in that Claude.md or agents.md or whatever that file is, can we add to the Boost guidelines easily other than just writing new ones?
Very good question. Can you add to the Boost guidelines? I've got two thoughts, and I'll quickly share my screen. Um, so I think rather than just writing new ones, so there are three things here actually. You can add your own custom AI guidelines. So if you put in your projects.ai/guidelines directory a blade file, when you run boost install, we will include that in the guidelines. Every time you run boost install, your guidelines will get appended to the boost guidelines, and so you can make it work however you like. So that's one way. The second way, you can PR to the GitHub repository and just add a PR to improve the guidelines. They're just blade files in the .ai directory. So if you want to improve the filament docs for version 3, just add a PR and that will also work. The last thing, I don't know if this will work. Can I go to polls? And can I do author me? There's an open PR to allow you to override Boost's guidelines. And this is just waiting for a review. But this will allow you, let's say you hate our Filament 3 guidelines because you have a weird Filament 3 setup. If you put in your .ai guidelines file a file that matches our Boost guidelines
Okay.
structure, we'll use yours rather than ours. So if you have something custom with a good example probably is Pennant. Like if you use Pennant for feature flags differently to how we recommend in the guidelines, you can just override our guidelines. Ours won't be included, only yours will be included. So this isn't out yet. This is for the next release, but I think this is going to be very, very useful for people to improve how Boost works in their projects.
That makes sense. And that was kind of High Thumb's question here at the end is like, how do you kind of follow your own conventions that you want versus the ones that might be included? And so that seems like that's probably a great answer because I think currently, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, currently probably the answer until this new release gets as you would put that in your own outside of the Laravel Boost tags within the Claude.md file, for example. But then you all also having two conflicting uh, standards, I guess, for the LLM to introduce.
Yeah. So yeah, if you want to override any of Boost's guidelines, you have to add them into your file, either through custom guidelines or just modifying the file, and then probably use stronger language so that your language overrides Boost's language. So we are mindful, like in this specific example, I don't think Boost would get in the way because the language you use in our guidelines, we try to be very, very careful about not being too strong. And often our guidelines say to follow existing conventions. So we often say, usually this is how you should do it, but check the existing conventions, check sibling controllers. How do they like to do it? And then prefer that. So we are very mindful. Everybody does things different and we're not perfect, but we try. So that shouldn't cause confusion. But if it does, help us improve the Boost guidelines, help us improve it and make it better for everyone.
I love it. As I jump to a different question, I have a question based off of that, and just kind of something that I'm curious to get your thoughts on, Ashley, is how much did you use, or have you found it helpful for those guidelines or those LLM rules and conventions? Do you find it helpful to have AI rewrite them so that it knows how it's interacting with them, or are you writing those by hand and not having it write them? For example, I in one of my starter kits that I created, I wrote my own guidelines, and then I had AI rewrite them. And I don't know if it did it any, like, I don't know if it
Yeah.
matters if it improves any better, but it just felt more AI-y, like AI conversational, after
Yeah.
I had it rewrite them. What's been your thoughts or feelings or findings, I guess, on that topic?
I like that idea. I've not written any guidelines with AI just because I don't trust it. And I
Yeah.
actually think the I keep using the strength of the guidelines, but the wording and the strength of the words that you use change how the LLM works. Like it can be quite drastic. And
Okay.
so I don't know that AI will have the nuance to
Mm,
know which particular words to use that give a particular rule the right amount of strength to be followed, but the right amount of strength to be overridden by a user if they chose to do something differently, and to not get in the way, like to not follow that guideline if the conventions, the existing conventions in the code base are clear. And so you have to be really, really careful with these things, and I wouldn't trust it. But what I do use AI for is to research what should go into the guidelines. So for Filament and Laravel, for example, we have Laravel 10, 11, and 12 guidelines, and we have Filament 3 and 4 guidelines. And I'm not close enough to every package and every version to know in my, encyclopedically in my mind what changed between versions and what's important to talk about. And so I use Claude Deep Research or ChatGPT Deep Research to say what's changed between these packages, what's important for people to know, what was in the upgrade guide, things like that. And then I use that research documentation to then guide to the writing of the guidelines. And then the boring part is testing them and then tweaking
mm.
them. I run the same tasks a few times, changing the wording, see if it does what I expect it to do, see if it's any better, see if it's not. And so, yeah, it's just a ton of work. So I think AI is great for the research, but I don't know that it has the nuance or carefulness to write them wholesale, I would say.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and in that sense, how do you again, I'm going to get to everyone's questions as quickly as possible. I'm curious then, how do you test with this? Of like you mentioned having a prompt that you use and you tweak the wording. How do you know which part is the AI kind of just having its own fluctuation, and you can ask AI the same thing 10 different times and it'll give you 10 different answers
Yeah.
for the most part, versus the wording tweaks help?
Yeah, right now we don't have a good process. It's
Yeah.
just do it a lot and kind of gut feel from doing it a lot, right? Like I've used all of these different models and all of these different IDEs and all of these technologies quite a bit. And so right now, a lot of Boost's success relies on my gut, which isn't ideal. But there is a project on the roadmap called Boost Benchmarks, where I'm
Mm,
building a really comprehensive suite of projects and benchmarks and evaluations that will show where Boost is useful and where it's not, and which guidelines are useful and which aren't, and which MCP tools are useful and which aren't. And so at some point, like it's going to take a lot of work, but at some point we'll be able to categorically say version 2.1 of Boost is 20% better than version 2 of Boost, because these
interesting.
benchmarks are kind of like unit tests, like coverage almost, saying, this is the accuracy of Boost in these projects with these technologies, with these tasks. So I'm super excited about having that like super thorough suite of evaluations. That's going to be so cool.
I love that. I've always said that we need some form, like I think each individual who has worked with AI extensively does probably have their own version of a benchmark, in the sense of I have my own project that I usually have a single prompt, and I just like to see how far different AIs or agents or LLMs get and what they fail
Yeah.
at, what they exceed at. And usually, like you said, it gives you a good gut check of, oh, I like Claude better than Gemini for 99% of the things, other than front end for the most part, or something
Yeah.
like that. But yeah, having uh, statistical benchmarks will be incredibly helpful, especially if you're talking
Yeah.
about the Laravel ecosystem as a whole, where you know this is proper Laravel code, or this is code that we asked for in our guidelines, and if it followed that, then you know this is better. It's objectively better because it's at least following the guidelines, kind of thing.
Yeah. It is going to be so good to be able to put a number on it. And also, we can test that if the guideline says do something one way, but the existing conventions in the project do it another way, we can evaluate that it's ignored the guideline and used the convention that's already there as well. So yeah, it's going to be super cool. And we're also going to run it across different models. And so I, at some point, will have stats that says Boost works better with this model,
Ooh,
10% better with this model than this model,
yeah.
and across different types of tasks. So soon we'll know that Boost with Claude Sonnet 4 doing bug fixes, say, is 15% better than Boost GPT-5 doing bug fixes. And so that's going to be super interesting and powerful to see where different models excel and different technologies they excel. So I'm looking forward to those stats. They can't come soon enough.
I love that. I love that. Jano says, guys, I'm loving your balanced takes. I also think Laravel's approach with Boost is pretty unique, and I fully expect other frameworks, ecosystems to take inspiration for it. I love it.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank you.
yeah, I'm glad to have you here, Genos. And for those just joining, I think we'll probably start to wrap this up in the next 10 minutes or so, just to respect Ashley's time and this Friday afternoon as well. But thank you all so much for being here. If you haven't got your question answered, pop it in the chat again, just so I it's there and visible for me. I'm kind of getting close to the end of each the current round of questions. And again, I apologize if I missed that. But again, Laravel office hours are here to just be able to hang out, to chat with you, the community, answer your questions, but also maybe just have fun talking about things like, is AI going to take over the world, or that, or how do we use AI? And it's been wonderful having Ashley's thoughts as well. I guess Janos has a question. Are you planning on open sourcing the documentation ingestion eventually?
Maybe. There's not a plan right now,
Yeah,
but it's relatively straightforward. Anybody can do it. So potentially, um, yeah, let's see.
I
No
love
plan
it.
right now, but
No plan.
let's see what the future holds.
Fantastic. That's perfect. And I guess, Ashley, while I'm looking through these last bits of questions, what is your current favorite LLM and agentic experience to use with Boost? And then those in the chat, if you don't have a question, I'd love to still know that you're here. What's your favorite LLM in the chat, or a and slash or agentic experience?
Yeah, this is a tough one.
Like,
My
I'm using them all, so I don't really like all of them.
yeah, well, I test with everything, right? I have everything installed and I use all of the models. When I am building something, I use Cursor and Claude Sonnet 4 most of the time for my personal things. Um, Sometimes I use Cursor web agents, background agents from my
Okay.
phone to change something. But when I'm working on Boost, when I'm working on more serious things than just my side projects, I will still use Claude Sonnet 4, but I'll probably use PHP Storm, and then I'll use the Claude Code extension within PHP Storm to get the best of PHP Storm being the best IDE, and Claude Code, I think right now, just about being the best AI coding agent. So I mix and match, but that's where I'm at currently.
Nice. I am similar. I'm not using Cursor anymore. I am at least for the past maybe 2 or 3 months. I have been using Claude Code and Open Code kind of interchangeably.
Yeah,
Specifically with the Claude Max plan. So I'm using mostly like Opus 4.1 for the
yeah,
majority of tasks. But I am rubber ducking a lot, and that's usually in a separate terminal. And then I'm using probably mostly Z editor to work on things while my Claude Code is working on other parts. And then usually I'm rubber ducking or tweaking things, not with Claude Code, especially for uh, visualization. I think Claude usually does not do a great job with, here's a
Yeah.
screenshot. This looks terrible. Fix it. Usually I'll go to ChatGPT and have it help me a little bit with that. And having us not and having ChatGPT not know the full context is sometimes more helpful because then it just knows, hey, here's just the styles I want you to change. This looks terrible.
Yeah.
Fix it.
I agree with that.
Let's go ahead and see. Popping down here. Let's see. Ashley, do you have any advice on how to guide the AI when the project is large or if the task is large? Like, how do you, if you're saying, instead of saying, let's build Instagram clone, how would you, knowing all the things you know now with working in AI, what would you do to break up that task?
I did this with the Boost API, actually, and some personal projects. I write a markdown file, plan.md, and I use markdown checkboxes and numbers and headings and say, we'll do this, then we'll do this, and then we'll do this. Then I speak with Claude Code or Cursor and I say, hey, the plan's here. What do you think about it? What am I missing? Get it vetted, get it reviewed first. And then once I'm happy that it understands what's going on and the plan is sound, then I say, well, let's start with only the first task. And it's got,
Interesting.
3 checkboxes. Once you're done, update plan.md to check off the checkboxes and don't move on. We'll review it together. And that works ridiculously well. Like, it is very good. And then when you've used up too much context and the LLM is starting to get a bit lazy or a bit stupid, you can just start a brand new chat and it has all of the context in plan.md, so you don't have to share anything. You can just say, hey, the plan's here, let's keep going. So I really like that. I do want there to be a tool for this in Boost. Like, I don't want to have to manage a markdown file and do all of these things, but lots of AI agents also have their own to-do list and their own task list for smaller issues. And so I don't know where this fits into Boost right now, but there is also taskmaster.dev, which is an MCP tool that does this incredibly well and helps keep the LLM on task and then moving on to the next task as well. So use that or plan.md, I would say.
Yeah. And that'd be my advice as well, in the sense of
Nice.
I actually have found great success in the most recently in the teaching style output from Claude Code, especially for large projects, because usually what the teaching style output or the learning style output for Claude Code does is it will do bits of information, and then at the end it will say, hey, I've filled in this piece for you to do. And it's kind of like a to do for human.
Interesting. Yeah.
And usually then you're filling in your own code. I sometimes still use AI, but just outside of that context, like with ChatGPT or something to make sure I'm focusing on what the task is at hand. But for me, it just helps within large products to be like, okay, instead of having it think that it needs to do everything or just kind of like you said, do 3 tasks and stop and let's evaluate. It's almost a built-in evaluation of, hey, I'll let you do this, and then I'll tell you if you're right or wrong, is what Claude Code is kind of saying.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I've not played with that. I need
It's
to.
definitely fun for the projects that I'm trying to learn something. Of like, I'm trying to learn a new package or learn more about the Canvas API within the HTML element, stuff like that.
Yeah, I like that. I created, and just as I joined Laravel, I created an Inertia React project because I didn't have much experience with Inertia or React. And I'm like, I need to learn these things. So I wish I had that then because
Yeah.
I'm still not great at either of them. So that's good.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how maybe guidelines help with that learning output, because every now and then I wish it would do more. Currently right now is it does 80% of the work, and then it says, hey, you do the last 20% and then we'll review. And tweak things. I wish it would do like 20%, you do 5%, 20%, you do 5%. I wonder if
Yeah.
there's a way. I haven't played around with trying to get it to do that, but I'd
Yeah.
love to be more involved instead of just reviewing, of more of like that hands-on approach. To keep me fresh, I guess, in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I think that'd be really cool.
Looks like most people Claude Code and Terminal. Richard says Claude Code. We can still be friends, Ashley.
Good.
Let's see. And then Musando says, honestly, I use all of them: Cursor, DeepSeek, and Chat, Lovable, Firebase. Okay, awesome. Fantastic.
Nice.
Richard said planning mode in Claude Code is so nice.
Yeah. I really like planning mode as well.
I have not used planning mode that much, mostly because I don't plan that much. I probably should plan more, I guess.
Well, I know that Claude Code and Cursor and most AI IDEs, right? They're primed to write code. And when I just want to explore options, I want to explore what's possible, I go into planning mode. I'm like, hey, let's figure this out together. What the hell's going on? What options do we have available to us? Yeah, super useful. Definitely recommend that.
I like it. Well, hey, we're going to answer one more question. But before we do, again, thanks so much, everyone, for being on. If you do have a last question and you're still here, thank you so much for joining. Pop it in, and we'll see if we'll do a rapid fire round right here real quick. But thanks so much for Ashley for joining us. If this is your first time at the Laravel office hours, this is something that we try to do once a month, and it's more of just being able to get to hang out with you, the community members, answer your questions, but then also just get to hear from you. How are things going? What are the things that you're interested in at Laravel? And this is a little bit more specific than we have done in the past, mostly because we had Ashley here as well. But I've loved being able to get to talk to AI. I love geeking out about what AI is, especially with AI within Laravel.
Yeah, it's nice.
But Peter says, what are some tips for leveraging the remember? So like in Claude Code, you have the hashtag remember. I think some other agents have similar features, but what types of things do you actually find yourself remembering frequently?
I've not once used the remember functionality.
Interesting. Okay.
I know it exists, but I don't know what I would want it to remember that I wouldn't have in a guideline and always be there, so it didn't have to remember because I was reminding it constantly in the guideline. So I think I've offloaded my memory preferences into the guidelines, I think. Are you using them? I'd love to know what Peter is using them for as well.
I actually, Peter, what are you using for? I probably used remember more when I didn't have Boost. And I don't actually know the inner workings of if remember adds it to your Claude.md file specifically, or if it just exists in the ether in that, because I know it exists past sessions, but I don't know where that actually piece lives. I never got to look into it. But I would use it a lot for if we were going back and forth, and I would stop it and then train it and be like, okay, no, use it in this way. Instead of making that a guideline, I would do like a hashtag remember. But I just haven't had the need to do that as much with Boost, honestly. I haven't had to be like, hey, no, I told you not to use functional style within Volt. I told you to use class space. Like I haven't had that happen as much, so I haven't had to have that back and forth just yet. Peter says my own design principles, so specifically for design.
Okay. So I prefer writing it in a guideline or just PRing Boost because I change IDE so frequently. Like I don't want Claude to hold my preferences because when I move to Cursor, when I move to Codex, I have to rebuild all of that memory context preferences again. So I do think my preferences.md file that you include in your guidelines is better. I would guess.
There you go. I like it. Last question. Do you think there could be, from Devin, glad to have you here. Do you think there could be a structure API that Boost could promote to other packages so that packages could include Boost prompts? That's very interesting. So kind of like going the inverse where it's like, hey, I want my package that I'm building to work really well with Boost. Do you think there's something there in the future? Have you thought about it, experimented with it?
Yeah, I think it might be the next issue on the roadmap, something similar to this. So our hope is to allow packages to suggest guidelines to add to Boost. So if
Mm,
you add sparsy browser shot, for example, they could have guidelines specifically for that package. And then when you do Boost install, we will either automatically include them or we'll ask you if you would like to include them. Um, but we would expect the package developers to write those
yeah.
guidelines. And so I think that's going to be very, very, very useful for people and third-party packages that many people use that I can't write guidelines for everything that exists, right? And then keep them up to date across versions. So yeah, we're going to release something like that soon-ish in the future to enable that.
I love that. I guess like a good question then to like wrap it up is then do you have to write good docs as a package creator, or do you just have to write good guidelines?
I still think you need
A
both.
little bit of
And
both.
yeah, because you have to be careful with your guidelines still, right?
Mm,
You can't put all of your docs into the guidelines. And this is
yeah.
actually one of the worries. Like, what if somebody just copy pasted their docs into their guideline files and then you run Boost install and now our guidelines file is 4 million tokens because it's full
Mm,
of, HTML or Markdown of all documentation.
mm,
And I don't know how we handle that. But yeah, that's
yeah.
a concern, right?
Yeah. No, that's been very helpful. Well, Ashley, is there anything else that you would like to kind of share, or maybe a quick little 30-second thing of, hey, this is how you should get started with Laravel Boost, or where can people find you to ask you any questions that they might not have been able to get to ask you here?
Well, yeah. I think just DM me on X or Blue Sky if you want to chat about using Boost or AI or Laravel or LLMs or where it's annoying for you, where it's great. Let me know. Like my job is to make this incredible. So people reaching out and asking questions and telling me where it sucks is very, very, very useful and valuable. So yeah, I'd love to hear from people.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. If you're still on the chat, thank you so much for joining us for this office hours. It was a blast, and I got to do it not by myself this time. So thank you, Ashley, for
I've had a
being
lot of
here.
fun.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
it was fantastic. And if everyone out there, if this is your morning, night, afternoon, evening, wherever you're at, hopefully you can get the chance to play around with Boost. Keep an eye on the official Laravel channels, as well as YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, hopefully you'll be able to subscribe here at the end as well, and like this video so that we can get as much information out to people like yourself as possible. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Hopefully you have a boosted morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you might be. But yeah, it's been absolutely fun. We'll see you next time.
Catch you later.